The round ball will roll on American, Canadian, and Mexican pitches at the start of the 2026 World Cup, hosted by 3 countries. In June 2026, all eyes around the world will turn toward North America. Never before has the World Cup been hosted by 3 nations at once.
But the supporters who plan to follow their national team to the United States are far from certain they'll get a visa. Fans, but also journalists.
Yet behind the global excitement, an unexpected reality is emerging. For fans traveling from abroad, entering American stadiums may no longer be as simple as before. In Mexico City, the atmosphere is electric, the stands almost ready to roar. By contrast, some American venues may remain desperately empty, not because of a lack of interest in soccer, but because new obstacles, ranging from entry procedures to concerns about the overall experience, are seriously complicating trips to the United States. So the big question arises. Will this World Cup of 2026 truly be a celebration shared among 3 countries? Or will the spectacle unfold mainly in Canada and Mexico, while the United States fades into the background on its own soil? For decades, you imagined the United States as an open gateway to global events, a country where all you needed was a ticket and the desire to immerse yourself in the greatest sporting festival on Earth. Yet, as the FIFA World Cup 2026 approaches, those doors seem to be closing. Multiple changes in entry rules, from longer visa wait times to new taxes, not to mention total bans for certain countries, are transforming this tournament into something far from what was expected. Visa delays, already problematic, are exploding. Consulates now show wait times of up to 16 months for an appointment. Some applicants are waiting more than 300 days, long enough for an entire soccer season to pass before getting their travel document. The reasons? Slower procedures, a critical shortage of staff, and extremely tightened controls. For passionate fans who planned their trip a year in advance, this is a crushing blow. As if that were not enough, starting in October 2025, a new visa integrity fee of $250 per person will apply to most non-immigrant visas, with no exceptions even for simple tourists. In theory, this amount could be refunded if all conditions are met and you leave the country on time. But in practice, the reimbursement process promises to be so complex and bureaucratic that most travelers will treat it as a permanent expense. For a family of 4, that means paying at least $1,000 extra on top of all other travel costs, a sum that in Canada or Mexico could easily cover 3 to 4 nights in a mid-range hotel. To these hurdles is added the continuing travel ban from 12 countries. Among them are some nations qualified for the 2026 World Cup. This situation creates gaps in the stands that will be hard to fill. While players, coaches, and team staff can obtain exceptions, ordinary supporters are left out. The result? Passionate fans, especially from soccer-loving nations or diasporas, may be absent, leaving a flatter atmosphere. The story of a group of Nigerian supporters illustrates this problem. As soon as ticket sales opened, they bought their passes and planned a trip mixing the World Cup with a vacation. But when visa delays passed a critical threshold, they had no choice but to cancel, losing part or all of their deposits. The disappointment and sense of exclusion will linger long after the final whistle. As someone put it, when a stadium ticket loses its value, the problem goes far beyond sport. It becomes a question of access and trust. Socially, these obstacles are not just formalities. They reflect a deep shift in how a country approaches global hospitality. In the long run, this could damage the image of the United States as a top cultural and sporting destination, a place meant to unite rather than divide. Yet these barriers are only the beginning. Even if fans and organizers overcome them, they face another threat: financial shock. This one stems from major changes in trade and customs policy. American tariffs remind some of the dark days of the Great Depression. According to reports, these rates are the highest in decades. On certain essential products, especially from key markets like Brazil or India, taxes can reach up to 50%. And it is not just everyday consumer goods. Basic materials and equipment vital to World Cup preparations, goalposts, stadium seats, or official balls are all burdened with extra costs before they even reach the field. The impact is felt on several fronts. In stadium construction, the price of steel and aluminum, major components of structures and frameworks, has risen sharply, especially for imports from Canada, Europe, or South America. Sports equipment is also affected. Electronic panels, giant LED screens, FIFA standard seats from Europe or Asia, and even turf maintenance technology. Even high-value merchandise such as official jerseys, balls, scarves, or souvenirs is facing price hikes. Several studies show that building such a stadium costs anywhere from tens to hundreds of millions of US dollars. If we assume that the budget allocated for the headquarters and related services amounts to about $120 million, and that materials such as steel, frames, beams, and accessories represent roughly 15% of these costs, that means an investment of around $18 million for these basic elements. Now, if the price of steel and aluminum rises by 50% because of import duties and other taxes, the additional expense for this category alone would reach about $9 million. This amount translates into an increase of nearly 7 to 8% of the stadium's total budget compared to the initial forecast, enough to force organizers to reconsider certain community programs, such as benefits offered to volunteers, decorative elements, or even the quality of some installations. This scenario threatens both deadlines and budgets. With customs clearance slowed and costs climbing, many orders are delayed. Those who planned logistics years in advance must now consider reducing or canceling community events, cutting volunteer perks, or even shrinking the size or quality of some components to save money. The chain reaction goes far beyond the stadium itself. Hotels, restaurants, and tourism services, key pillars of the World Cup experience, are also hit by rising costs. Kitchen equipment, furniture, linens, and imported climate control systems all see their prices surge. These expenses pass directly to room rates, menu prices, and even the cost of a simple coffee on match day. As a result, the overall experience for spectators becomes more expensive, even for those who purchase their tickets long in advance. In some areas, such as New Jersey, this trend is already common. One restaurant owner who planned to expand his kitchen and open a terrace to welcome World Cup fans has suspended his project. The cost of imported metal and industrial equipment exceeded his forecast by more than 30%. He admits that if the situation continues, benefiting from the economic windfall of the tournament, organized just steps away, will be difficult. What was once only a figure on a pricing grid now turns into a concrete extra cost for every stadium seat and every meal served to supporters. So can we imagine a global tournament keeping its full vitality when the pillars of its festive atmosphere, its infrastructure, and local participation are collapsing under the weight of soaring expenses? But the issue is not only financial. One must also think of the fans, many of whom are now hesitating before kickoff. Picture this scene. A few months before a match in Toronto, Montreal, or Calgary, groups of friends proudly wearing their team's colors stroll through the streets, tickets in hand, their true passports to the world's biggest sporting festival. Each week, accommodation costs skyrocket in almost every host city, even before the first whistle. Several cities have already seen hotel prices soar, and the tourism sector points to one major reason. You might be wondering, can an event of this scale still make sense if only the wealthiest or luckiest fans can overcome the growing economic and bureaucratic obstacles? Increasingly, supporters may prefer to stay home or head to Canadian and Mexican stadiums, where access appears far less complicated. In the end, the economic benefits and the magic of the World Cup could shift in an unexpected way. While the United States struggles with visas and taxes, Canada and Mexico quietly rack up wins in the eyes of FIFA sponsors and international visitors. The contrast is striking. Packed stadiums, perfect lighting, and fast entry checks. This is what makes the difference across the border. In Canada, steady and early preparation is finally paying off. 13 matches are on the schedule, expected to generate around $2 billion for the country's GDP and create or sustain more than 24,000 jobs nationwide. The infrastructure of the venues is almost complete. Their hybrid stadium with 54,000 seats meets FIFA standards, and Toronto even expanded its capacity to more than 45,000 seats, finishing ahead of schedule. Add to that a flexible visa policy with processing times of barely 1 week, specifically adapted for visitors from major football nations, and you quickly understand why international fans are turning more willingly toward Canada, where costs are controlled and risks remain limited. Mexico tells a different but equally powerful story. With a rich history of memorable tournaments, the legendary Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, host of the epic matches of 1970 and 1986, remains a living emblem of world football. You know what they say in sports? When the opponent plays better and draws bigger crowds, missing an opportunity can be costly. Canada and Mexico don't need to host the entire tournament to benefit from its success. They only need to fill the gaps left behind, boosting their image and profits. If the situation continues, more matches could be reassigned to them. And here a crucial question arises. Will FIFA stick to its promise of universal accessibility, or will it accept a World Cup with empty stands in the United States? This dilemma could become the toughest test yet for the most powerful organization in football and for the host countries themselves. If, by March 2026, the United States has not lifted the brakes on visas, tariffs, or other restrictions, FIFA could invoke a special clause. Mexico, with only 90 days' notice, could step in. History has already shown this is possible. In 1986, Colombia lost its hosting rights due to inadequate infrastructure and security, and Mexico managed to organize a memorable tournament in just 2 years of preparation. The lesson is clear. FIFA is ready to act decisively if the quality and prestige of the tournament are threatened. On the contrary, Canada and Mexico have everything to gain: more matches, more spectators, more tourism revenue, and a stronger reputation as welcoming and easy-access destinations. So the big question remains: will FIFA keep its promise of universal access, or will it back down in the face of political and economic constraints? If a decisive move must be made, who will emerge as the winner, and who will be remembered for missing a historic opportunity? And you? Do you think FIFA will truly guarantee access for all fans despite financial and administrative barriers? Subscribe to the channel to catch all our exclusive analyses, stay up to date with the latest news, and don't forget to like the video, it really helps.